All right. Good morning once again, everyone, and welcome to episode 163 of the On Air Advocate. Where at the On Air Advocate, we look to provide education, support, and empowerment for all of those with different abilities, mental and medical illnesses, and their caregivers. For those of you who may not know me, my name is Tammy Flynn, and I am the host and producer of the On Air Advocate. And I am super excited if you are here this morning joining us, or whether you're catching this on the replay. Now, as always, if you think the content that we are talking about this morning could be relevant to anyone in your circle or your network, please hit the share button and share the love with others. Well, as we continue our All Things Employment series, I am so excited to have back once again one of our amazing On Air Advocate community members, Evelyna. Good morning, Evelyna.
Good morning. Good morning, Tammy.
Now, where are you this morning? What town are you in?
I'm in Longview, Washington.
And how is the weather there?
It's gross, in my opinion. I don't like rain. Pacific Northwest rains a lot, and it's been raining cats and dogs. And we got a little snow too, but mainly just rain.
Okay. Well, if anyone is watching this morning and you have sunshine, can you throw that at us on this live this morning? Since I have snow, she has rain. Awesome. So if you guys have been following this whole week, we have been talking about all things employment. And for those that know or may not know, there is a huge lack of employment opportunities for those with different abilities. And we're talking from mobility issues to cognitive and developmental, intellectual disabilities, across the board, and Evelyna has such a great, it's a great story right now, but she has so much information from her background of over a decade plus of pursuing jobs and trying to find things and whatnot. So, Evelyna, before we get going, for people who haven't maybe caught you on the show before, can you just tell them a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, hi, Evelyn, and I am a makeup artist, and I do some voiceover, but right now I'm really focusing on makeup right now. I have spina bifida, and I was born with spina bifida. I'm a manual wheelchair user, and I've had an interesting time with jobs. I got my first job when I was 16, but it's been really hit or miss. And people can also argue that the fields that I choose between voiceover and makeup, those are difficult fields to get into anyway. With a physical disability on top of it, it's been quite a ride because people will make up just excuses not to not to even have you as for an interview. Or anything like that. I was also a performer for 15 years, a theater performer, and I think part of my issues through that also helped me get into makeup and voiceover, because I still wanted to perform. As far as a performer, I really wanted to perform, but I kept running into, if only we were accessible, if only the character was written for somebody in a wheelchair. Things like that. I got really tired of the excuses, just audition after audition. I actually stopped telling them that I was in a wheelchair, and that really made a lot of people mad. But
started kind of the interview process on the phone, not telling them, and then once they liked you and embraced you, then you would. And then what was the response that you ended up getting?
For performing, I've actually been to auditions or at the audition location. Because I didn't tell them I was in a wheelchair. I ended up not going on the audition because they were not accessible. And I was basically just turned away, which was a disservice to myself because I didn't actually have to go to the audition if I had just been told, no, we're not accessible. So I've had that happen in voiceover. I've had people tell me I need to transfer onto different seats so I'm not in the chair, so people don't see the chair, so I'm more compatible with the other people auditioning for this. And Makeup has been interesting. It's been really hit or miss. I've gone to makeup school, but I've been turned away from schools who, people will say people are not hired in this industry. Whether they be heavy or physical disabilities, anybody with limitations are not hired in this industry. You will not get hired. We're not going to accept you into our program. And, I had to find other outlets.
That's just crazy for a school program that you're paying,
Yeah. I'm sorry.
that you're paying to go to. I mean, that's how absurd this is.
Exactly. But at the same time with them, later, yeah, at first I was like, that's really rude. I was so hurt and so disappointed. But then I did start kind of thinking that that was actually a good thing, because if I'm gonna pay 30,000-40,000 to go to makeup school for however long, um, I want to be able to get hired. Otherwise, that is quite a lot of money to waste. So in a way, I feel like they were doing me a favor now that I can look back on it, even though it really didn't feel like one. Because it made me work it made me really think on like what areas of makeup I want to pursue, what would be good for me to pursue, what would be accessible for me to pursue. Because they're not going to adapt for me, for
Right.
how many people are makeup artists that are in wheelchairs. Just in generally speaking, I don't think there are very many, but I could be wrong.
Right. And I just think from some of the stories over time that you've told me, how, how would that be if you didn't have limitations? Okay, so I'm really short, right? Let's say I walked into a job interview and I wear really high heels, and they're like, well, I think you should take your high heels off so you're better equipped for this interview. You know, I mean, that there'd be some lawsuit or something crazy flying in the air if somebody was telling you how to dress or what you should take off or what you should do during that process. But the more that I'm entrenched in the world of the differently abled, I'm just like, it's so outlandish, the things that people not only will say, will physically do, will physically take, oh my gosh, you're a great candidate. You walk in the door, okay, you're no longer a candidate,
Yeah,
you know,
right.
that they wouldn't do. And I take that to also outside things. I think about that when I talk to people about like transportation for those that have mobility issues. I'm like, could you imagine if you were just with some of your girlfriends and you called a taxi or an Uber and you called them 3 times and they didn't show up? What would be happening? The company would get a call, you get a refund, you get whatever. But yet we like have people that have mobility issues, leave them outside in the cold and be like, our transportation forgot about them. Okay. And it's
Actually,
okay. Does that happen?
exactly. Actually, about this, about
I know that's not
Uber.
about employment, but
Can I can I
yes.
just mention that kind of same thing just happened to me? I was in Tacoma and I was going back to uh, where I was staying, and I I don't drive. I called an Uber, and so in the little note section, I put, "Hey, I have a manual wheelchair that comes apart," so they know. And so the person was like, "I'm sorry, I don't have room." So they canceled the ride. So I guess the app tries to find another one. So a second one was available, and then I told them I had a wheelchair. Automatically, it was canceled. Then the third one, this was raining. It was in Tacoma, and I was outside. And the third one finally like arrived and everything was okay. But I was like, that was the third one.
Right.
Really?
Right.
So
Yes.
along
I
with
mean,
my,
I mean, like the same thing with these interviews. Like, I can't believe, and it flies both ways, as we were, chatting about before the show. If you have more mobility restrictions, in my mind, I'm like, well, intellectually, if you're able to do the job, type the stuff out, know what you're supposed to be doing, you don't need a job coach, that you should be able to attain a job a little bit easier. But then you were thinking the other thing on the flip side, someone who's, intellectually disabled or impacted may need a job coach, may need, supervision all the times that they're working. How is their interviewing? How is their job experience? And guess what? Both of it is almost the same. There's just all these people that just, I mean, there is an answer. And in your searching, I mean, in all of these years, so from 16 to how many years is that now you've been in the job field for? 20? No. I don't
um
overage you, 20, so 2 decades or so.
something like that, yeah.
Um, over those 2 decades until this point today, which I know you're going to share with everybody what you're doing right now, till this point of you knocking on doors and doing stuff, has there been much? Or, do you feel like this is the first time that there's anything that's a little bit more concrete, a little bit more stable?
Now currently, it's really funny. Yes, I just very recently I've come up with, like more opportunities just recently. And it's really funny because I've been reading about people like on social media having more of a difficult time. And it's like the stuff that I had been dealing with for decades and, for a long time,
Right.
um, they seem to be just coming up to, like, just facing. I do find that interesting, but for me, it has been just very recently. That's why, honestly, I think that's why, like, I've been to radio broadcasting school. I'm on hold with going to back to school for to be a health coach, because of my makeup stuff. I've, done drama degree. What everything that I've done school wise, I've kind of felt like, because whenever I attempt to pursue something, I come up with so many walls, so many walls just like happen because of the disability. So I kind of feel like I end up going to school to pursue other things. So I'm like in school most of the time trying to figure out what I want to do that is
Right.
not going to hinder me because of my chair, rather than actually working. And I've been very career driven since I was young. And
Right.
school's never been a great thing, but I find myself having to go back to school repeatedly because of it.
Right. Kind of like in hope, like you're going to school in hope that that career will be open and more compassionate, more understanding to those with mobility issues. So maybe this is my fit. Maybe this is my lane to be in. But then you finish that course and then you find out, okay, well, this one isn't awesome either. So you move on, on to the next one. Now,
Exactly.
the position you currently are in, which I wanted you to share with the audience, how did that job application process for the job you have, right? What was that process like for the job you have right now, before you got hired?
I saw that I had been actively looking online for like makeup opportunities and whatnot, makeup jobs. And one of my big passions is opera. So I was like, okay, let me look around the opera companies. And I saw Tacoma was looking for designers. And so I emailed them saying, hi. So in theater, typically when people are hiring for designers, they don't necessarily mean makeup designers. But I was wondering, I'm a makeup artist. Are you hiring for a makeup designer? And they said, yeah, actually, that's one of the positions. And so I sent them my portfolio at first, because as a makeup artist, that's what speaks for us basically is the portfolio. I did never really had to make a resume for makeup until now. And so they asked for my resume. I submitted the resume, not putting anything about a chair. I didn't put anything about a wheelchair. And they said, we're interested in having an interview. Can you come to our offices? And then that's when I said, I do have a manual wheelchair. Is this location accessible? And then they said no, but there was a nearby cafe that they were totally willing to meet up at, and so we just met at a cafe, and um, they were so impressed with my portfolio that the idea that the chair wasn't a big deal. It ultimately wasn't a big deal, obviously, because they were able to make it work in the theaters um, that they perform in. Excuse me. Um, I had to be on the third floor for the last one, but they had Tacoma's kind of like San Francisco with a lot of hills and stuff. So the third floor of this theater was literally like on the top of a hill. That was really fun. But the idea that they were so impressed with my portfolio, they decided to give me a try. And, that really meant a lot to me. Um, so, I mean, I guess that's kind of how that one went.
Right, right. And you are very active in continuing to pursue, though, even with the doors being closed, you've continued to, okay, I'm going to go back to school. Okay, I'm going to try something different. How long do you feel like you give yourself, like when one door closes, do you give yourself that mental mindset break for a minute, like you're like, and then get back on it? Or do you just like, are you really good at just like shaking it off and just moving forward? You need a hot
I,
minute.
it depends on the situation because a while back I actually had a wig and makeup internship with Seattle Opera, but because of very like spontaneous health problems, I had to give that up. That took me, I want to say, a full year to bounce back,
Mhm.
honestly, like emotionally, because I really had my heart set on it.
Right,
Um, but most of the time, it's just, it'll affect me, but I don't let it get me down so much where I get into a depression kind
okay.
of a thing. Like I had gotten into a depression with that, with the Seattle thing. But yeah, I also get bored really easily. So if I don't have something to fall back on, I will start looking for something.
Right. By continuing, so when we talk about the issues that are going on in and outside of the United States, with employment this way, do you have any thoughts of what might help it? You know what I'm saying? Like the government, everybody wants to know ideas, and I feel like it's like this big circle. I mean, you have to fix this before you can fix this, and you got to fix this before you can fix this. So it's not like, okay, well, if employers just get taught something, people are just going to get jobs. I don't know that that's gonna happen. Um, what are your thoughts?
I just honestly, I feel like if more employers were would be more willing to take a leap of faith,
Hmm.
just like give us a chance, we can prove it ourselves, but we need the chance. I mean, don't let something like a wheelchair
Hmm.
discourage because now a lot of places we're supposed to be wheelchair accessible as a country, if I'm not mistaken.
Right.
Granted, we're not completely. However, I mean, if we're just given a chance, just that's all we need. I mean, let our resumes speak for us. Don't let our mobility devices speak for us
Right.
because a lot of us are willing to work. A lot of us want to work. A lot of us that it means a lot to be able to do something like that. And so many people just kind of, I think if people didn't lump us all into like one category, a lot of times, that could help if we were not lumped up into, oh, we don't want to work, we can't work, we're all mentally challenged
Mhm.
despite the disability.
Right.
you know.
Or what you were saying before is that those that do have mobility issues, a lot of employers, a lot of times, have the fearfulness that, it's not if you fall or if you get hurt that way, that you may press a lawsuit against them, all of that. And you were saying, that's for so many, you just want the opportunity. You know what I'm saying? You just want the opportunity to go, but there are so many barriers in so many different ways from their mindset of what they think. And I don't know, um, unless there, possibly are safety guards put in like legislature, like when people are hiring or whatever, you know, I don't, I don't know how we're going to get employers to feel that comfort.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then if we don't educate them, if there's nobody out educating businesses, like what they talk about is how much more reliable someone who has a different ability is to an employer, what an asset they are, because they do show up. You know what I'm saying? This is such a huge, significant part of their life. And they stay at jobs, I don't know, it's like 10 times longer than the average employee. I mean, they've shown that statistically. And so it's like, how do we, develop this crew of people that goes into employers and teaches them about these things? You know,
Yeah.
like how much more,
Exactly. And I'm sorry, go ahead.
no, go on.
Um, I also think that there's a big, for me, there's a big difference between educating the public and also just being one of those people that threaten lawsuit off the bat. I think that kind of thing gives us the bad reputation and the bad name. But I feel like there has to be like a 50-50. If you're willing to work with them, then you have to be willing to work with you. And that's also part of it with Tacoma Opera that I work with. The building we have meetings in and the rehearsals and things is, I guess, an older building. Um, their elevator has not been completely reliable, and their meetings are on like the second floor, the fourth floor, whatever. And I've actually had to be carried up to the second floor, but I feel like there's like that give and take. I am willing, you're willing to give me this job. I'm willing to do what it takes for me to fulfill it. If it means getting picked up and if they're okay with it, that's okay with me. And I hate being picked up. I hate it.
Mm-hmm.
But you got to do what you got to do sometimes.
I love that perspective, and I think that more people need to take that. I mean, I feel that way too with like the wage thing. For a lot of those, and I'm in that position with my family and in my son. You know, people want competitive, the same wages. Okay, well, in one sense, yes, especially if you went to college, you have your master's degree, you have a degree that way. I want my son to have fulfillment and feel that he has a purpose and be able to go somewhere and interact with people each day. So the fact of the matter is, if he's working 2 hours or 3 hours and, making $10, does it really matter if he's getting fulfillment? But we started that whole argument as well, which now has led some employers to say, well, I can't pay someone who can only do one thing in the job this amount of money, so we're going to eliminate those positions completely. So then it's like, well, did we go and stab ourselves in the foot? Yes, we should have equality. Yes, it should be equal. But on the other side of it, if what you're looking for is that involvement, community, purpose, and that your loved one maybe intellectually is only capable of working 5 to 10 hours a week, are you really working for the money? Are you working to be involved and be a part of something, And so, I mean, I hear you loud and clear in that. I think there has to be that give and take. And so if that's you being carried up the stairs, obviously they embrace you and love what you do. They employed you. They took you in, they love your portfolio, but some people maybe not have a building renovated. Now, I mean, you care about the position that you have, they care about you. So what is, putting those kind of barriers on and saying, okay, we don't have an elevator, I'm going to get up the stairs.
Exactly. And actually, and last time, because there was only like one person there at the time, I was seriously like ready to jump out of the chair. So either he could take my chair up and then me, or I could bump myself up the steps myself. And, it's, I, I was almost in that situation. However, luckily a couple people did come downstairs from the fourth floor and helped lift me up to the second floor. But yeah, exactly. I mean, it, but we have to be given the opportunity. We have to be given the chance to be able to work with them and say, hey, if you're willing to do this, I'm willing to do that.
Right. Right. And so, I hope that as the year goes on, I hope that I can be doing these interviews 10 years from now, and the employment, you know what I'm saying, has gone up by even 10% or 15%. Because honestly, for those that have intellectual disabilities, they talk about that only like it's 85% do not have employment. 85.
Wow.
Yeah. And I believe that those with mobility issues, you're probably at least at 50%. You know what I'm saying? If somebody has that stat, please let me know. I know intellectually it's about, I think the last one I saw was 85%. Yeah.
That
Yeah.
would
So, but I
be
mean, I would think that the mobility side of it, you're probably pretty high as well, because if you look, it wasn't very hard for me to seek out people even for the show that, are longing for employment, that have mobility issues but don't have it. So my guess is it's probably sitting around, that same area. And then when I read that article that came out about how a lot of employers, they tweak their employment ads. So even
Mm-hmm.
though the position doesn't require you to pick something or move something or go upstairs, they put it in there. So initially it deters you from filling out the application because you're like, oh, I don't meet those boxes.
Exactly.
As like, so you wonder at how many people, that's all right. You wonder at how many people don't even apply for positions.
Right. Oh, that's actually, I've not applied for some positions for like other things other than like makeup and stuff
Hmm.
because of that same issue.
Right. Right. Yeah. So I just think that we need to keep pounding the pavement. We all need to keep using our voices, so the outside world, like they know that this is a real thing, you
Yeah.
know, they know that you've sought out for 20 years to find something and just now have found something that you feel stable in after 20 years and how many different degrees,
Mhm.
you know? Um, and so I hope that, this position continues to grow for you. I know you have some other fun irons in the fire that, you are working on. So I hope that all of those things continue to pan out. On the makeup side of things, as people know, I am a makeup artist too. So me and Evelyn, I need to get together to do some makeup at some point in time. But your theater makeup is amazing. I don't do that.
Thank you.
I'm always like, if you need to look like you've been cut or bruised, she's your girl. She's your girl. So if people want to reach out to you, maybe there's others that are listening that have kind of gone through this, the same process and maybe are in the makeup industry, the drama, the theater, the fitness, and want to just, kind of pick your brain for some things. Where is the best place for people to reach out to you?
I Facebook is actually really good. I have two profiles. One is geared towards more makeup, voiceover, work related stuff. It's a less personal one. And I also have a personal one, which I need to be more choosy on. But there's that. I also have a page called Evelyna Makeup Fitness Foodie.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that's also good. I'm on Instagram as well under Ms. Evelina.
Okay.
Um, and I also have a fitness one, which is Evelina Fitness Foodie, I believe. Evelina dot fitness
After
dot
this, can you drop some of those in the comments on this live
Yes,
so
sure.
people can find you and they can follow then your theater work that you do and your fitness and whatnot. But if they have any questions, because I would gather out there that there are many other females and maybe some males as well that love makeup, that love theater, that would love to get in this. But as you kind of came against, it just isn't something that's in the industry, being in a wheel,
Exactly.
you know? And
Exactly.
having those issues. I mean, having those issues to combat against, to like break down the barriers, to be like, this really isn't an issue.
Right.
A
And
great
actually, I know it also like helps to have somebody that you look up to in that industry too, with like the same issues and whatnot. That's not something that I have with makeup at all.
Mhm.
There are really no legitimate makeup artists that I consider legit, that have the same issues that I have. So
Right.
I don't see that at all, but
But
it
you
would
are
be
that.
amazing to be that person. Huh?
You are that person. You definitely are that person. There's so many to look at, that you don't let those barriers and those walls and those no's keep you down. You just keep on going. So I'm excited to see where this continues to go in the future with all this, theater, drama stuff, and makeup. So you will have to keep us posted. And I thank you for waking up early because you're way ahead of us, from here from Central Time, getting up early to be on the show with us. But I thank you so much again. And you're going to drop those below, correct?
Yes.
All right, perfect. Well, thanks for sharing with us, Evelyna. I always appreciate it. And for those of you that want to find out more information about the On Air Advocate, you can go over to onairadvocate.com. You can find all of our services and information there. You also can go up to the top of this Facebook page, hit the blue button, and that will let you into our private group. So on that, everybody have a wonderful, wonderful Thursday. I hope the sunshine comes out for both of us, you and me. All right. Have a great day. Bye, Evelina.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.